Amelia Earhart is on one of the final legs of her historic flight around the world when something goes terribly wrong.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most mysterious and terrifying instances of people who vanished without a trace for a long period of time.
Who was D.B. Cooper? Did he survive?
Number 50, The Princes in the Tower.
3 times today my footcloth horse did stumble, and started when he looked upon the tower, as loath to bear me to the slaughterhouse.
People go missing all the time, but seldom royal figures. One of the most enduring mysteries of English history involves the Princes in the Tower, King Edward V and his younger brother, Prince Richard. The boys were taken to the Tower of London in the spring of 1483, and Richard III took the throne from Edward that June following a manipulative power grab. After that, the two princes were seen less and less, until they were never seen again. The idea of children disappearing within the heavily guarded tower feels deeply sinister, almost gothic, and the lack of explanation only adds to the eeriness. To this day, no one knows what exactly happened to the princes, but it is widely believed that Richard had them murdered.
Dream of thy cousins smothered in the tower.
Number 49, Eloise Wage.
A little over 4 months ago, Victorian police began one of their most baffling missing person investigations. Tonight, they're still looking for 8-year-old Eloise Wage, the Melbourne girl who disappeared from her own bedroom overnight.
At 7:30 a.m. on the morning of January 12, 1976, the Wage family of Melbourne, Australia woke up without 8-year-old Eloise, who was not in her bed. The police were called, and the girl's younger brother told them that he heard, quote, robbers take Eloise in the night, but that he was too scared to intervene. Neighbors also reported hearing a child scream and saw a dark green car speeding away from the area around 2 a.m. Some neighbors also saw a suspicious man loitering outside the Wage house around midnight. An extensive search was launched for the young girl, but neither she nor the man seen outside her house that night has ever been found.
Well, young little Eloise Wage is still missing. Parents and police are still looking for her, and if you know anything, however insignificant, please contact the Melbourne CIB. I can assure you that her parents and the police will be very grateful.
Number 48, Dennis Martin.
One of the top man trackers in the nation, McCarter has assisted in more than 100 searches in the Smokies, but it's the first person in his logbook that's never been found.
The most extensive search in the history of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park occurred in the summer of 1969, when 6-year-old Dennis Martin went missing. Dennis was camping with his family when he went into the bushes with some other kids. They had hoped to jump out and scare the adults who were walking along the trail. Unfortunately, Dennis was not with the other kids when they all came out. Up to 1,400 people helped look for Dennis over 56 square miles, and they found nothing but child-sized footprints leading to a stream. Dennis's father always believed that he was abducted, but park officials think that he wandered off and perished from exposure, as the immediate area was marked by steep ravines.
For every year that the remains lay in the woods, the Great Smoky Mountains Park layers up 1 inch of debris. And Dennis is lost in '69. How many inches is that? This is 2017. Where would you look?
Number 47, Emma Philippoff.
Several months ago, we got a call from Emma's mother, Shelley. She's leading her own campaign to find her daughter and asked if we could help. Well, given the fact authorities seem to be so stumped by the mystery of her disappearance, we decided to enlist our own experts in our attempts at finding Emma.
On the evening of November 28, 2012, 26-year-old Emma Philippoff was seen walking barefoot outside Victoria, BC's Fairmont Empress Hotel and appearing distressed. Police spoke with her but eventually let her go. She was never seen again. In 2018, a man named William said he had given a distressed young woman matching Emma's description a ride to nearby Colwood early on the morning of November 29th. Police searched the area but found nothing. A man in a green shirt was also observed tearing down a missing persons poster of Emma. When confronted, he said that Emma was his girlfriend and that she wasn't missing, but that she had run away. As of 2023, police were still trying to find this man for questioning.
Think it's time to stop?
No. No. That'll never happen. I don't know where I'll keep going, but that's not going to happen. That to me would smack of giving up. And I cannot give up.
Number 46, Dorothy Arnold. Born and raised in Manhattan, Dorothy Arnold was a wealthy socialite hoping to become a writer. On December 12, 1910, Arnold left home to do some shopping. Witnesses say that she appeared cheerful, and Arnold ran into a friend, telling her that she was going to walk home through Central Park. but Arnold never made it home. Her family wanted to avoid drawing attention to themselves, so they hired private detectives rather than calling the police. Unfortunately, they were unable to find any leads, and the police weren't contacted until 6 weeks had already passed. By then, it was far too late, and Arnold was never found. Some suggest that she was depressed, as evidenced by burned manuscripts that were found in her bedroom. Number 45, Louis Le Prince.
Why was I not notified at once, Senior Mr. Bianchi? I was his nearest associate.
I was nearest to his murderer.
You mean you saw the man? You can identify the murderer?
Considered the father of cinematography, Louis Le Prince invented one of the earliest motion picture cameras, but his work was largely overshadowed by his mysterious disappearance in September 1890. After visiting his brother in Dijon, France, Le Prince boarded a train to Paris carrying critical films, camera equipment, and documents. But when the train arrived, neither he nor his luggage were found. In fact, no witnesses ever recalled seeing Le Prince aboard the train despite his tall, distinctive appearance at about 6'4". To this day, no one knows what happened to the inventor, although numerous conspiracy theories exist, like the idea that Thomas Edison had him murdered in order to claim the invention of motion picture technology for himself.
Only by interrogating the other passengers could I hope to see the light, but when I began to question them, the light, as Macbeth would have said, thickened.
Number 44, Barbara Follett. Considered a child prodigy, Barbara Follett was a remarkable storyteller, publishing her first novel when she was just 12 years old. But her writing career petered out as she aged, and she entered into an unhappy marriage, resulting in a period of depression. On December 7, 1939, Follett and her husband, Nickerson Rogers, got into an argument, and Follett stormed out. After 2 weeks of not hearing from her, Rogers contacted the police. Unfortunately, she was never found. In 2019, writer Daniel Mills argued that Follett's remains were actually found back in 1948, but were misidentified at the time. If true, then Follett likely took her own life, as a bottle containing traces of a barbiturate were found at the scene. Number 43, Jim Thompson.
No one ever found even a button or a buckle or a scrap of cloth.
A Princeton-educated architect, Jim Thompson worked as an intelligence officer in World War II before moving to Thailand and reviving the country's silk industry. He became a prominent expatriate figure in Bangkok, known for his luxurious lifestyle and deep interest in Southeast Asian culture. In March of 1967, Thompson was vacationing at a friend's bungalow when he went for a short afternoon walk. He never returned. Despite massive search efforts, including soldiers and local tribesmen, no trace of Thompson was ever found. The case has drawn countless conspiracy theories owing to Thompson's work in intelligence circles, like the fact that he was abducted or murdered while out on his walk. His Bangkok home is now a museum, drawing tourists and conspiracy enthusiasts alike.
Jim went on his usual walk looking for wild orchids. Jim loved to collect orchids when he went into the jungle, and I think he just got careless, and he wandered off the path.
Number 42, Benjamin Bathurst. For centuries now, the disappearance of Benjamin Bathurst was viewed as an almost supernatural occurrence. The British diplomat was in Prussia during the Napoleonic Wars, traveling with his courier, Herr Krause. The story goes that Bathurst and Krause stopped at an inn to wait for new horses. When told that they were ready, Bathurst left the inn, followed shortly behind by Krause. But when Krause got outside mere seconds later, Bathurst was gone. His disappearance quickly became fodder for speculative fiction, the sudden nature of it leading to many fanciful ideas. However, modern historians believe that this story is highly exaggerated and that it's very likely that Bathurst was murdered. Prussia was plagued by highway thieves at the time, and the diplomat wore expensive clothing.
I think he went back to wherever it was he did come from, because when we got to the top of the hill, he just disappeared.
Number 41. Bobby Panknin.
I'm calling to report a missing child. Missing child.
What's your relation to the child, ma'am?
It's my son.
In August 1963, 4-year-old Bobby Panknin was camping with his family in Stevens County, Washington, near the Canadian border. Bobby, his mother Edna, and his 2 older brothers were walking on an isolated logging road when Edna took the oldest brother Bill down to a creek. She told the middle child, 6-year-old Jim, to watch Bobby. Jim listened at first, but soon got bored and left Bobby to join his brother and mother. When Edna saw Jim, she was angry and went back to get Bobby, but he was already gone. A massive search was undertaken, and bloodhounds traced Bobby's scent to a fork in the road about 2 miles away. Unfortunately, young Bobby was never found. Number 40. Gordon Paige Jr.
Now, in retrospect, I wish I had allowed him just to get in and crawl back and just driven right to Florida and come home. But you don't think of those things, and we didn't know what we were going to be facing in the future.
In March of 1991, 28-year-old Gordon Paige Jr. was placed in a Grand Rapids home that specialized in autism. On May 21st, Paige became highly distressed while saying goodbye to his father following a visit. 6 days later, a caretaker was conducting a midnight check when they discovered that Paige had escaped through a window. Around 1 hour later, a firefighter reported seeing a man matching his description hitchhiking on I-96 exiting Grand Rapids. Around 6 weeks later, a series of baseball cards were found under an I-96 overpass. And as Paige was extremely passionate about baseball cards, many believed that they belonged to the missing man. Unfortunately, he has never been found, and Paige's father passed away in 2018 without receiving closure.
We will never stop looking for Gordy because we love him and we've always been a close family. He would know that we want him back. And no, we will never stop looking for him.
Number 39. Glenn and Bessie Hyde. In 1928, Bessie Hyde attempted to become the first woman in history to run the Grand Canyon Rapids. She tried accomplishing this feat with her new husband Glenn, an experienced river runner who built a custom scow for the trip. The couple was last seen on November 18, 1928, below Hermit Rapid. When they failed to arrive at their scheduled destination, a search was conducted and their boat was found with all of their belongings still on board. It showed no signs of struggle or damage, hinting that whatever happened to the newlyweds may have been sudden and unexpected. They were eventually declared dead by drowning, but without definitive proof of what happened, their fate remains one of the Grand Canyon's most enduring mysteries. Number 38. Susan Powell.
The fate of Josh and Susan's 2 young sons could be determined later this week. A hearing is set to decide whether Susan's parents will gain custody of the boys. A possibility Josh Powell hopes will never happen.
28-year-old Susan Powell lived in Utah with her husband and their 2 sons, and she was reported missing on December 7, 2009 after not showing up for work, kickstarting a remarkably tragic story. Authorities found Powell's blood in their home, but Powell herself was never found. She had earlier reported domestic troubles at home and even wrote a will claiming, quote, "If I die, it may not be an accident." Indeed, authorities quickly zeroed in on Susan's husband Joshua, believing that he conspired with his brother Michael in killing Susan, but they were never formally charged. In a devastating turn of events, Joshua took his own life and that of their 2 children in February 2012, and Michael followed his brother 1 year later.
Josh Powell, who lost custody of his 2 boys after being suspected of killing his missing wife Susan back in 2009, killed himself and the children Sunday by setting the house on fire with a gas explosion.
Number 37. The Yuba County 5.
It's been almost 50 years since 5 men went missing in the Plumas National Forest. They are known as the Yuba County 5, and what happened to them remains a mystery.
5 men, each with an intellectual disability or psychiatric condition, attended a Chico State basketball game on the night of February 24, 1978. Police were notified after they failed to return from the game, and the group's car was found miles off course in remote Plumas National Forest. It was drivable and showed no mechanical issues. When the snow finally melted in June, the remains of 4 of the 5 men were found scattered around the area. The 5th man, Gary Mathias, has never been found. It seems like they got lost, left the car, and perished. But a local man also reported seeing 2 vehicles and suspicious flashlight activity near his own stuck car that same night, leading some to suspect foul play.
What makes this case so difficult to solve?
No independent information, no witnesses, and the likelihood that the only people that truly know that what happened that night, they perished in those hills.
Number 36. Andrew Gosden.
A face in the crowd at London's King's Cross station. These the last known images of Andrew Gosden on the day he disappeared in 2007. For his family, the passing years haven't numbed the pain.
On September 14, 2007, 14-year-old Andrew Gosden left his home in Doncaster, England, and bought a one-way ticket to London. He arrived at King's Cross Station at 11:20 a.m. and was captured on CCTV leaving the train. And that was the last that anyone saw of him. To this day, no one knows what happened to Gosden or even why he traveled to London in the first place. Some suspect that he skipped school to do some sightseeing. Others think that he was attending a concert. A break in the case seemed to occur in 2021 when 2 men were arrested on speculation of kidnapping and human trafficking, but they were later cleared of all wrongdoing. As of now, the case remains open.
So actually, unless you can somehow reach the point where you go, we never loved him, we don't love him, we don't care, it's impossible to give up that hope that one day you'll have some kind of answer.
Number 35, Jimmy Hoffa.
Some people, not me, but some people, they're a little concerned. Some people, not me, they think that you might be demonstrating a failure to show appreciation.
Union leader Jimmy Hoffa has endured in the public consciousness since he went missing in 1975. Hoffa led the International Brotherhood of Teamsters and had powerful links to organized crime throughout the late 50s and 60s, but he ultimately resigned from the position in 1971. Hoffa was last seen around 2:45 p.m. on July 30th, 1975, in the parking lot of a Bloomfield Township restaurant. He was allegedly there to meet mobsters Anthony Giacalone and Anthony Provenzano, and he was never seen again after entering their vehicle. The leading theory is that Hoffa was murdered by the mob, supposedly after threatening to expose their involvement in the Union. His body was then disposed of, ensuring that it would never be found.
It was no more complicated than that.
Number 34, Shelley Muscavage.
Shelley is the high priestess of Scientology who vanished 13 years ago. While the church won't speak of it, the belief is Shelley has been banished to this mountain prison by her husband, the leader of the church, the all-powerful David Miscavige.
Back in 1982, Shelley Barnett married David Miscavige, the future leader of the Church of Scientology. David Miscavige has run the controversial church since 1986, and Shelley often worked behind the scenes as his assistant. However, she has not been seen since 2007, leading many to believe that something nefarious is going on. In 2012, attorneys claimed that she was devoting her time to Scientology and no longer wished to appear in public. And the following year, ex-Scientologist Leah Remini filed a missing persons report, but it was closed within hours when the LAPD supposedly found and spoke with Miscavige. Regardless, many continue to question the narrative, and the church has continuously refused to comment on her whereabouts.
What do you think has happened to Shelley?
I don't know. I mean, that's why I filed a police report, missing persons report. It's just, no, you're not getting any answers. We don't have to answer you. Shelley is fine, and she's alive and well, and that's the PR line.
And do you believe that line?
No, I don't.
Number 33, Lord Lucan.
When we heard about the lead piping being found in the boot of the car which was abandoned at New Haven, we were totally shocked because it seems such an utterly damning piece of evidence.
British aristocrat Lord Lucan was well connected in high society, but he struggled with gambling debts and a troubled personal life. Things fatally escalated in 1974 during a bitter custody battle between Lucan and his estranged wife, Veronica Duncan. On November 7th, the family's nanny was bludgeoned to death and Lady Lucan was injured. She ran to a pub and claimed that her husband had attacked her. Meanwhile, Lucan fled and wrote a number of defensive letters protesting his innocence. His abandoned car was later found near the New Haven coast, complete with bloodstains, a bottle of vodka, and a pipe similar to the one that was used to kill his nanny. Lucan was never seen again, despite extensive search efforts and warrants for his arrest.
So who do you think might have left the lead pipe in the car?
Well, I know who left it in the boot of the car. That was Lucan. But what I said was, I don't know who put the car at New Haven. I don't know whether it was Lucan or whether it was somebody else.
Number 32, Ben Padilla and John Mutantu. Between March 2002 and May 2003, a Boeing 727 sat idle at Angola's 4 de Fevereiro airport. On May 25, 2003, while the plane was in the process of being converted, it was hijacked by 2 men, Ben Padilla and John Mutantu. And while Padilla was a pilot, he was not certified to fly a Boeing 727. Air traffic control desperately tried to contact the now moving plane, but they were unsuccessful, and the aircraft flew away in a northwest direction towards the Atlantic Ocean. It never landed. Despite an enormous worldwide search consisting of multiple intelligence agencies, no trace of the plane or the two men have ever been found. Number 31, the crew of the Mary Celeste.
But 10 persons, the captain, his family, and crew, had vanished without trace, leaving few clues as to their fate.
In December 1872, the Mary Celeste was found floating by herself in the Atlantic Ocean, quickly becoming one of the most famous ghost ships in the world. The ship was seaworthy, and there were no signs of a struggle. The crew's belongings were also completely intact, and the food stores were left undisturbed. There was nothing alarming about the ship, but its passengers were nowhere to be found. To this day, no one knows what happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste. The most likely explanation is that they were scared into abandoning the ship, likely the result of some natural phenomenon or maybe even a small explosion from the alcohol in the cargo hold. But as it stands, we can only guess.
An inquiry failed to discover what occurred. And years later, the Mary Celeste took her secrets to a watery grave. In her wake, speculation, wild guesses, and many theories were proposed, none fitting all the facts or provable by any means.
Number 30, Jaime Clauss. In the early hours of October 15, 2018, police responded to a 911 call at the home of James and Denise Clauss in Barron, Wisconsin. Inside, they discovered a horrible scene. The couple had been murdered, and their teenage daughter Jamie was missing.
Each day I wake up with a new, refreshed hope. Today is going to be the day.
I can still feel she's going to come home. My heart tells me, yep, and I won't give that up.
For 88 agonizing days, authorities searched for Jamie, but were unable to come up with any leads. Then, on January 10, 2019, Jamie mysteriously turned up in the woods, where she encountered a local woman who took her to a neighbor's house. Investigators later learned that Jake Thomas Patterson had killed her parents that night and abducted her for his own sexual gratification. Patterson was arrested that same day and sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms plus 40 additional years.
Patterson was given 2 life sentences without parole for the murders, the maximum 40 years for Jamie's kidnapping, the judge calling him the embodiment of evil.
Number 29, Monica and Michael Bennett. The last time anyone saw half-siblings Monica and Michael Bennett was on June 21, 1989 in Brunswick, Georgia. The two shared a mother but had different fathers. On the day they vanished, Michael's father Robert picked them up, reportedly to help him pack for his move to Alabama. That was the last anyone saw of them. When questioned, Robert gave conflicting accounts, claiming at one point that they ran away from his apartment, and at another that he dropped them off at their mother's house. Despite these discrepancies, police classified the siblings as runaways and failed to carry out a thorough investigation. It wasn't until the 2000s that they were reclassified as endangered missing and added to the government's missing person database. Number 28, Johnny Gosch. On September 5, 1982, Johnny Gosch, a paperboy in West Des Moines, Iowa, disappeared during his morning paper route.
At first, West Des Moines police treated the disappearance as an abduction and launched a big search that included several law enforcement agencies.
Multiple witnesses reported seeing him speak with a mysterious man in a blue car shortly before he vanished, while another claimed they saw a silver car speeding away near the spot where Gosch's paper wagon was left. The case has since gained widespread publicity, but authorities have made no headway in determining who took Gosch or what became of him. In 1997, his mother Noreen alleged that Gosch visited her briefly with an unidentified man, but left without revealing where he was going.
West Des Moines police officers said that Noreen had told similar stories before, only to recant them later. There were never any witnesses that verified her claim.
The validity of this claim remains in doubt, and despite other unconfirmed sightings, Gosch is still officially missing. Number 27, Amy Lynn Bradley. In 1998, Amy Lynn Bradley had just graduated from college and was preparing to start a new job when she joined her family on a celebratory Caribbean cruise to Curacao. At around 6 a.m. on March 24th, Bradley's father discovered she was missing from the balcony where she had fallen asleep.
But Amy is not on deck. All of her belongings are still in the room. Yet after searching the ship for more than an hour, Amy is nowhere to be found.
All efforts to find her on the cruise ship proved futile, as the crew delayed announcing her disappearance until after most passengers had disembarked. Over the years, various theories have emerged, including that she was abducted and trafficked, fell overboard and drowned, or that she deliberately ended her own life. There have also been possible sightings of Bradley in Curacao, but none have led to her being reunited with her family.
We just can't give up looking. We just got to do what we have to do.
as long as it takes.
Number 26, Ronald Tammon. Ronald Tammon, a 19-year-old sophomore at Miami University in Ohio, vanished mysteriously on the night of April 19, 1953.
Walked out of his dorm room around, I think, 8 p.m. and was never seen again.
An open textbook. The radio was still playing. All of his personal effects, including his wallet and car keys, were still in the room.
The last person who saw him was his residence hall manager, who gave him new bed sheets around 8 p.m. after someone placed a fish in his bed as a prank. By 10:30 p.m., when his roommate returned, Tammon was gone, leaving behind his coat, wallet, and car keys. Although his roommate reported the disappearance the next day, school authorities delayed taking action for several days. One woman in a nearby town claimed that on that night, a disoriented, dirty man resembling Tammon knocked on her door asking for directions.
She didn't alert police until she saw Tammon's picture in a local newspaper and the story about his disappearance.
This, alongside other reported sightings, still has not helped authorities figure out what happened to Ronald Tammon. Number 25, Tara Calico. On June 15, 1989, a woman found a Polaroid photograph at a Florida convenience store.
The nationwide frenzy brings a second family into the spotlight.
The mothers of Mike and Tara were strangers only a week ago. Now they're brought together in a common cause, a national effort to find their missing children.
The picture showed a young woman and a boy, both bound and gagged, seemingly in the back of a van. Many believed the woman to be Tara Calico, who had vanished nearly 1 year earlier during her routine bike ride near her home in Belen, New Mexico. Neither she nor her bike were found, and authorities only recovered pieces of her Sony Walkman and a cassette tape along the trail. While Scotland Yard identified the woman in the picture as Calico, an FBI analysis proved inconclusive. Her whereabouts remain a mystery, but in 2023, the Valencia County Sheriff's Office announced new leads in the case.
Right now, a team is working to go through 3 decades worth of police files. In order to sign off on charges, they have to rule out the laundry list of suspects who were named over the years. There's no hard timeline on when or if charges will be filed.
Number 24, Timothy Pitson. On May 11, 2011, James Pitson dropped his son Timothy off at school, but when he returned later that day, he discovered the boy was missing.
I pulled up and I got out. His teacher goes, "What are you doing here, Mr. Pitson?" I'm like, "Here to pick Timothy up." "Oh, he left 8:15 this morning."
Shortly after 8 a.m., Timothy's mother, Amy Fry Pitson, had picked him up and taken him on a trip to amusement parks, resorts, and zoos. He was last seen 2 days later on security footage. On May 14th, Fry Pitson's body was discovered in a motel room. She had taken her own life and left a note stating that Timothy was safe but would never be found. True to those words, no trace of him has ever emerged. In 2019, hope briefly resurfaced when a teenager in Kentucky claimed to be Timothy, but sadly, that turned out to be a hoax.
What did the false hope he created do to you?
It destroyed me for a week or two. Very unhappy. Very destructive.
Number 23, Brian Shaffer. Ohio State University medical student Brian Shaffer went out with friends to celebrate the start of spring break in 2006. As the night progressed, Shaffer got separated from the group, and his friends assumed he had gone home without telling them.
The following day, his girlfriend was getting concerned because she was unable to reach Brian.
But when he failed to show up in the subsequent days and missed a long-planned flight, he was reported missing. Security footage from the bar's entrance captured Shaffer briefly interacting with 2 ladies, but showed no evidence of him leaving. The only other way out was through a construction zone, which would have been difficult for him to navigate, especially if he was intoxicated. This puzzling series of events has raised several questions about Shaffer's fate that authorities have not been able to answer.
The people closest to Brian still hope that one day they'll learn the truth.
Number 22, Aisha Degree. After putting their daughter Aisha to bed on February 13, 2000, Harold and Aquila Degree woke up the next morning to find her missing.
Investigators at the time had reason to believe that she took some items with her out of the house and that she left the house and walked south on Highway 18 toward the city of Shelby.
There were no signs of forced entry, and Aisha's brother O'Brien was asleep in his own bed. Strangely, it seemed she had packed a bag and simply walked out of the house. Around 4 a.m., several motorists spotted her walking along a highway alone, and when one approached her, she fled into the woods, never to be seen again. Months later, Aisha's bag was found at a construction site, containing items that didn't belong to her. For years, the case yielded no significant leads, until September 2024, when authorities classified her disappearance as a homicide and named 2 suspects.
It's important here we know that no one has been charged. Investigators took DNA from Roy and Connie Deadman. They also took a green car and several other items, including a camera, computers, and phones.
Number 21, the Bowmont Children. It remains one of the most chilling mysteries in Australian history. On January 26, 1966, 3 siblings, Jane, Arna, and Grant Bowmont, left their home in Adelaide to visit the nearby Glenelg Beach alone.
Nancy Beaumont thought her 3 children would be home by 1 o'clock. Increasingly panicked, she waited as bus after bus returned from the beach without them.
Witnesses reported seeing them playing with a tall, thin, suntanned man, and later walking away with him. When the children failed to return home that afternoon, their alarmed parents contacted the authorities. But despite extensive searches in and around the beach, no trace of the kids was ever found. Over the decades, there have been countless suspects and theories surrounding their disappearance, but none have led to any concrete answers. Sadly, both parents passed away without ever knowing the fate of their 3 children.
You know, the family have suffered considerably for a long, long time without any answers.
Number 20, Ryan Chambers.
This is a picture of Ryan Chambers, missing from Rishikesh, India, since August 2005.
In June of 2005, Ryan Chambers embarked on a spiritual journey to India with his friend John Booker. However, after a while, Booker noticed that Chambers wasn't getting much sleep and was beginning to act strangely. Then, in the early morning of August 24th, the 21-year-old Australian simply walked out of his ashram wearing nothing but a pair of shorts. He left behind all his belongings and an eerie note reading, quote, "If I'm gone, don't worry, I'm not dead. I'm freeing minds, but first I have to free my own." No one has seen or heard from him since. An exhaustive search was launched, but after turning up nothing for years, Chambers was legally declared dead in 2023. Number 19, the Fort Worth Missing Trio. Rachel Trelisa, Renee Wilson, and Julianne Mosley were Christmas shopping in the Fort Worth, Texas Seminary South Shopping Center when they went missing. The girls failed to return to their respective homes, prompting their families to conduct a search.
There's something's happened to them. I know it.
They found Trelisa's car in the parking lot, and it contained multiple gifts, indicating that the girls had returned to the vehicle at some point. Nevertheless, the trio was nowhere to be seen. Trelisa's husband later received a letter presumably written by her, stating that they were, quote, going to Houston to, quote, get away, and they'd be back in about a week. But they never showed up, and have remained missing ever since. The families have since cast doubt on the letter's authenticity.
My goal is I would love closure before my mother dies.
Because just like in 1974...
You haven't given up hope, though.
No, huh?
Number 18, Brandon Swanson. On May 14, 2008, Brandon Swanson of Minnesota was driving home following a night out partying. After veering off into a ditch, the 19-year-old student phoned his parents and asked them to pick him up. Swanson's parents remained on the phone with him for the next 47 minutes, but couldn't seem to find him at his supposed location.
He said he was fine, that he was not injured, and, in fact, when we did find his vehicle, there was no damage to it.
Still on the call, Swanson asked his dad to meet him at a local bar, but soon after, he yelled out a curse word and went silent. Investigators later found that the young man was actually about 25 miles away from where he thought he was. It's believed he inadvertently fell into the Yellow Medicine River and drowned, hence the sudden cursing. Number 17, Bobby Dunbar. The story of Bobby Dunbar is a bizarre one.
Speculation was that he was taken. They assumed he was kidnapped.
Bobby disappeared on a family fishing trip on August 23, 1912. Authorities then found a boy matching his description with a man named William Walters. Walters insisted that the kid was actually named Bruce Anderson, which was corroborated by Anderson's mother, Julia, who claimed that she allowed her son to go on a trip with him. The case went to trial, and Anderson was eventually handed to the Dunbars, with whom he lived the rest of his life. Unable to afford a lawyer, Julia lost her case and had her reputation soiled in the media. However, a future DNA test proved that the kid was, in fact, not Dunbar, lending further credence to Julia's story. Number 16, Margaret Fox. In 1974, Margaret Fox advertised her services as a babysitter, attracting the attention of one John Marshall. Marshall contacted Fox and told her to meet him in Mount Holly, New Jersey. The young girl traveled there on a bus and was never seen again. The authorities were immediately contacted and they traced Marshall's number to a supermarket payphone, which raised suspicions. The Fox family also received a phone call from a stranger, demanding $10,000 for their daughter's safe return. Unfortunately, this call could never be traced, and the man was never identified. Despite investigators' efforts, the case eventually fizzled out, with no one finding Fox or figuring out the identity of Marshall ever since.
There's a likelihood that Margaret may be deceased. It is our mission that if this is the case, Margaret receives a proper burial.
Number 15, George Mallory and Andrew Irvin. The story of George Mallory and Andrew Irvin captures the horror of mountain climbing and the endless allure of Everest. Both men took part in the ill-fated British Mount Everest expedition of 1924, hoping to be the first people to reach the top. They were last spotted about 800 feet from the summit, but promptly disappeared. The men were soon presumed dead and publicly mourned as heroes of Britain. Their whereabouts remained a mystery for the next 75 years, until the Mallory and Irvin research expedition located Mallory's preserved corpse in 1999.
I heard out of my radio, which was in my down suit, I just heard hobnail boot. Quickly unzipped it and said, "What?"
It was found with a puncture wound in the forehead, suggesting that he had fallen and accidentally struck himself with his ice axe.
This guy was a really talented climber. It took a great degree of skill and confidence to go with that limited amount of gear to that distance.
It wasn't until 2024 that partial remains of Irvine's body were found. Number 14, Marjgery West. Called the Great Unsolved Mystery of the Missing by The Guardian, the story of Marjgery West is a fascinating one. West was picnicking with her family on May 8, 1938 when she went missing. The story goes that West's sister Dorothea left her unattended to, but upon her return, the child was gone. A massive search was undertaken involving thousands of people, but the effort was unsuccessful. Then Police Commissioner P.W. Foote believed that West had been playing hide-and-seek when she got lost. However, a man named Harold Beck later wrote a book positing that West was kidnapped and grew up with her captors as Sylvia London. Beck claimed that London eventually confessed to being West, but she passed away in 2009. Number 13, Frederick Valentic. Australian pilot Frederick Valentic was a student in the country's Air Training Corps. In the evening of October 21, 1978, Valentic was flying over Bass Strait, which separates mainland Australia from Tasmania. During the flight, Valentic contacted Melbourne Flight Service to report an unidentified aircraft that was following him.
Delta Sierra Juliet, there seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000.
The craft had bright lights and seemed to be hovering right above him. Just after telling Flight Service that it wasn't an aircraft, a loud scraping noise was heard over the radio. Valentic was lost, and his plane was never recovered.
Flying a single-engine aeroplane over water, lost communication in such strange circumstances. I put an alert phase on the aeroplane.
Ufologists believe that the pilot was abducted by a UFO, while others posit that he was unknowingly flying upside down and saw his own reflection in the water before crashing. Number 12, Evelyn Hartley. Teenager Evelyn Hartley was tasked with babysitting the daughter of Viggo Rasmussen, one of her parents' colleagues. Hartley arrived at the house as planned, but when she failed to check in later that evening, her father Richard gave her a call. There was no response, so he traveled to the Rasmussen house himself. He found a wild sight, as items were thrown everywhere and the furniture had been moved. There were also signs of a break-in, including a torn-off window screen, pry marks, footprints, and blood. The baby was found unharmed upstairs, but there was no sign of Hartley. A witness reported seeing two men driving away with a young girl, adding credence to the theory that Hartley was kidnapped in a break-in. Number 11, Hiang Quay.
In November 2018, this Chinese biophysicist made world headlines when he announced he'd created the first genetically edited human babies.
I understand my work will be controversial, but I believe family need this technology.
His claim was met with widespread condemnation due to serious ethical issues with his experiment. His research was suspended, he was fired from SUSTech, and then he disappeared.
He was last seen at the Human Genome Editing Conference in Hong Kong on Wednesday. The South China Morning Post reports that the researcher's employer is dismissing claims he was detained.
In December, it was reported that he was sequestered in an apartment under guard. 1 year later, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison. He was released in April 2022 and is now working on gene therapy for rare genetic diseases.
It's game over for Hiang Quay, who thought he could tweak life and get away with it.
Number 10. The Sodders. A devastating fire erupted in the Sodder household on Christmas Eve 1945. The Sodder parents and 4 of their 9 children escaped, but the other 5 weren't so lucky. The easy theory is that the children died in the fire, but the story contains many twists that cast some doubt. No evidence of the bodies was ever found. Furthermore, Patriarch George Sodder spoke negatively about his then fascist native Italy, prompting a theory that the Sicilian mafia had burned the house and kidnapped the children. Years later, a photo of an older man was mailed to the Sodders, purportedly depicting a now-grown Lewis. They agreed that the man harbored a resemblance to their missing child, and they both held on to this hope until their deaths. Number 9. Lauren Spearer.
In 2011, 20-year-old Lauren Spearer was attending Indiana University and studying textiles merchandising. On the night of June 2, 2011, Spearer went out with some friends to Bloomington's Kilroy Sports Bar. She left the bar around 2:30 a.m. and was last seen leaving a friend's apartment at 4:30. She remains missing to this day.
The latest images come from a security camera, according to the authorities. Here's one of them, which police say shows Lauren just hours before she disappeared.
Various theories have been put forth, including abduction and a fatal overdose, as Spearer had reportedly consumed alcohol and drugs.
One theory is that Lauren was kidnapped by a biker gang after collapsing in the street on the way to her apartment.
Despite thousands of tips and attempts by police to tie her disappearance to other crimes in the area, Lauren Spearer's whereabouts remain unknown.
I really just would like to hear this is where you can find your daughter. It's the not knowing what happened to her, where she might be, or, it's unbearable.
Number 8. Lars Mitank.
One of the strangest and creepiest stories involving a disappearance has to be that of 28-year-old German man Lars Mitank. In June 2014, Mitank was vacationing at Bulgaria's Golden Sands seaside resort with friends. When it was time to leave, Mitank was left in the country owing to a ruptured eardrum, which prevented him from flying. He checked into the Hotel Color Varna by himself, where he reportedly began to act paranoid. He even called his mother and told her that 4 men were looking to get rid of him. The last time anyone saw Mitank, he was running through Varna Airport in fear, hopping a fence and fleeing into the nearby woods. He hasn't been seen since. The source of his fear and his current whereabouts remain unknown.
Number 7. Mora Murray.
On February 9, 2004, Murray, a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, emailed her professors claiming there'd been a death in the family.
It is a real mystery. 1 minute she's here, 1 minute she's not, and there's just so many theories.
Her parents have since stated that no such death occurred. She looked into hotels in Vermont, loaded her car with clothing and toiletries, and packed up her belongings in boxes. After leaving campus, she purchased alcohol and withdrew $280 from an ATM. Murray crashed her car around 7 p.m. that night, and when police arrived at 7:45, she was nowhere to be found.
There was no injury, so they searched on foot and in vehicles. Basically what they were looking for was a person walking or B footprints in the snow. They found none.
The responding officer found a few suspect items in the car, including driving directions to Vermont and blank accident report forms. Of Murray herself, there was and has been no trace.
All I have left is the public, because I'm not getting any help anywhere else. I'm asking for help for my daughter.
Number 6. The Springfield 3.
This missing persons case, in which Cheryl Levitt, Stacy McCall, and Susie Streeter all disappeared, has remained unsolved since 1992. The story begins at Levitt's home in Springfield, Missouri, where the women spent the night after attending high school graduation parties.
The girls leave the party just after 2 a.m. Cops believe Stacy and Susie walked through the front door of Cheryl's house on Delmar Street about 15 minutes later. That's where the mystery begins.
When a friend arrived at the house the next morning, all 3 were missing, despite their cars being parked outside.
Authorities say there was no sign of a struggle. In fact, the front door was unlocked, the TV was on, their clothes were still there, their purses and personal items untouched.
The friend found a broken porch light, and she reportedly received an obscene phone call while there. Levitt's dog was also visibly agitated. When McCall's mother later arrived to investigate, she found a, quote, strange message on the answering machine. But this was accidentally deleted.
It was a brief call, and the person didn't identify themselves. It was a male voice that made sexual innuendos, and she hung up and immediately received a second call with also making sexual overtones.
Unfortunately, the crime scene was so badly contaminated that it prevented a proper investigation.
But until then, these families will continue to live one day at a time, hoping for the best, but knowing the worst could be just around the corner.
Number 5, Rebecca Coriam. When this 24-year-old British woman disappeared the morning of March 21, 2011, she was working for the Disney Wonder cruise ship.
The ship set sail from Los Angeles on Sunday, March the 22nd for the Mexican Riviera. The alarm was raised last Tuesday when she failed to turn up for her shift. The following day, the vessel docked in Puerto Vallarta, and the Mexican Navy and U.S. Coast Guard were deployed to search the seas.
Coriam was last seen on CCTV footage talking to someone on one of the ship's internal phones at 5:45 a.m. She was clad in extra-large clothing and appeared visibly distressed by the call. She hung up, walked away, and was never seen again. Investigators believe that Coriam went overboard, but how she went overboard remains a mystery. Some believe she jumped. Others believe she was pushed by a rogue wave, and her parents believe she was thrown into the ocean.
Very, very little information comes back to us as to what the investigations found out. And that's the frustrating side that we face, really, and that's partially because of the problems of where the ship was registered.
The official investigation has received loads of criticism, and Disney Wonder has even been accused of covering up her disappearance.
Just don't know what happened to her, do we? That's the worst.
Number 4, Zeb Quinn.
It's a loss without closure, with plenty of clues, but no resolution.
On January 2, 2000, 18-year-old Zeb Quinn met up with his friend Robert Owens. After Quinn received a notification on his pager, however, he appeared frantic and allegedly sped away in his car. 2 days later, after being treated at the hospital for injuries, Owens called in sick for Quinn.
It's very complex, as you've reported on. Mr. Owens was a person of interest in the Quinn disappearance from 2000, and those kind of things do make the case, it does make the case much more complicated.
On January 6th, Quinn's car was found abandoned with bizarre lipstick drawings on the back windshield and a live puppy stuck inside.
His mother has some hope he could have been kidnapped and is still alive.
In July 2017, Owens was charged with first-degree murder in the death of Quinn, but ultimately pleaded guilty to accessory after the fact. He is also serving life in prison for ending the lives of the Food Network's Christy Schoen and her husband J.T. Codd in 2015.
We're able to bring Jason Owens to justice. He's removed from society. He's going to die in the custody of the state of North Carolina.
As for Quinn, his remains still haven't been found. Number 3, Harold Holt. In December 1967, Harold Holt was serving as the 17th Prime Minister of Australia. Holt was an avid outdoorsman but nearly 60 years old, and his personal doctor had recently advised him against swimming. On the afternoon of December 17, 1967, Holt went for a swim at Australia's Cheviot Beach, despite rough waters. He was quickly swept out to sea, and a massive search was undertaken in the area.
Rescuers trundled their way to the search scene from surrounding communities. Police and military divers deployed to Cheviot Beach by helicopter. Crowds silently lined the roadway.
Despite the country's best efforts, no one was able to find any trace of Holt. A governmental inquiry was never launched owing to the wishes of Holt's family. This detail, among other factors, has led to numerous conspiracy theories.
In Washington, where Secret Service men keep the president under strict surveillance, there was surprise that a prime minister could be allowed to swim without being closely watched.
Despite countless claims to the contrary, the official ruling stands that Holt died in a tragic drowning.
He had been claimed by the sea he knew and loved.
Number 2, D.B. Cooper. The story of D.B. Cooper is one of the most famous unsolved mysteries of all time. A story involving air theft, a cinematic escape, and an ambiguous outcome.
The identity of D.B. Cooper has been a mystery since November 24, 1971, when a man calling himself Dan Cooper hijacked and threatened to blow up a passenger jet flying from Portland to Seattle.
Cooper is the pseudonym of a man who hijacked a Boeing 727 in 1971 and extorted $200,000 in ransom. After securing the money, Cooper opened the door mid-flight and jumped out into the cold, dark night, never to be seen again.
Police believe he left the 727 in the flatlands of Oregon or Washington, but they are still looking in 4 states, even around the airport.
The only trace of Cooper remains a small cache of ransom bills that was recovered in 1980.
The portion of ransom money a family discovered buried in sand while camping along a sandbar, Tina Bar, in the Columbia River in 1980.
The rest of the money and DB himself remain missing. Many FBI agents claim that Cooper likely died in the jump, but then again, they could just be trying to save face.
While probability now points to DB Cooper's death, without hard evidence, many people today still believe that he survived.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Amelia Earhart. If there's one unsolved story more popular than that of DB Cooper, it's that of Amelia Earhart. Earhart was a popular and renowned aviator and the first woman to fly solo over the Atlantic.
The magnificent thing about Amelia is that in the eyes of the world, she never died. Her fear never witnessed, her failure never recorded.
In 1937, she and navigator Fred Noonan attempted to circumnavigate the globe. However, they disappeared over the Pacific near Hawaii and were never heard from again.
This grainy film records the last time Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan are ever seen alive.
Countless theories have been put forth regarding their ultimate fate, but no consensus has ever been made.
Not a trace of wreckage was found floating. There was no mayday call. There was no distress call.
For 70 years, investigators have been trying to solve the Earhart enigma.
It's most likely that Earhart and Noonan ran out of fuel and crashed into the Pacific while desperately looking for Howland Island. It's a boring answer, but the most realistic often are.
Do you think you have the answers? Let us know in the comments down below.
Experienced person would do it only if he thought the vessel was going down.